Hi, friends. I am sitting with the amazingly talented Cristina, Cristina Quintero and Sarah Gonzales, who are working together on a very exciting project that is going to be coming to the Toronto International Festival of Authors, and it's a book that is for children but adults alike. And before we get into the juicy parts of the book, I wanted to ask maybe Christina if you could start with an intro about yourself. I know you're a writer, and I think this might be your first book for younger audiences. So how did that kind of start for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Cristina Quintero, although it's so lovely to hear you say Cristina Quintero, like it is. Yes, that is how my mother says it. So it's very lovely. Yeah, the only way to make bread is my first book for children. I have also written a breast cancer memoir, which has yet to be published. Um, but I also do celebrity ghostwriting, which is kind of fun. So
Yeah.
all I can tell you is that. um, and sorry, I've got very helpful kids in the background. So I'm like, grab this and get the dogs out of the way. So if every now and then you hear a little shuffle, it's just humans
It's
moving
all good.
dogs. Yeah, so actually, during the pandemic, the world was quiet. I needed something to do, and I was home with my family a lot, and so the kitchen became a real refuge
Mhm.
and place of solace and community. Also, because you could like Nicky knock knock with a loaf of bread on your neighbor's door, and everyone was good, and it was spreading love without spreading the virus. So it was kind of great.
That's a treat reminding me. I had a friend who actually dropped off a loaf of bread. You're right. It was sort of that comfort and connection, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah,
did
absolutely.
did you always think that writing was sort of a way for you to for your career and sort of a path?
It's funny. I work in human services. I spent 5 years in Indigenous government prior to where I am now. I do volunteer management. I do have a 9 to 5 still, and I'm pretty open about that fact. I think it's important people know writing
Hmm.
is a way forward. It's not always going to be a full time gig, especially not in the beginning.
Right.
Give me 5 years, and let's talk again. But in the meantime, I've always loved writing. I have always been a reader. I was that kid who was just emptying out the shelves at the library. Library was Mother Church to me.
Mhm.
And I grew up with parents who didn't necessarily have access to education themselves when they were children, and who encouraged me more than anyone to engage with literacy and to learn how to read the world around you. So
Mhm.
I have always had a very huge part of my heart has always been shaped by libraries.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like that's similar in my case and why I
Yeah.
gravitate to works like yours. And Sarah, your art is beautiful. I've seen your some of the art on your site for the book. Was drawing something that you've always done? I'm understanding, but what was that segue of, being a young person who loves to draw and then now making it something where you can do work with as a living.
Yes. So yeah, ever since I was a kid, I would always be drawing. I was born in Saudi Arabia, and my family, we immigrated to Canada when I was almost like 10 months. So I pretty much grew in Canada. I'm actually originally from Alberta.
Mhm.
So first Edmonton and then Calgary.
Mhm.
And I grew up with three other siblings, and they're all much older than me. So when I was a kid, I'd always kind of find myself on my own, kind of drawing while my siblings would be out or like they'd be focused on their studies. It's funny, my eldest sister is a nurse, my second eldest sister is a dentist, and my brother is an optometrist, and I'm the artist in the family.
And
Of
I
course, there
love
was a
that.
point, yeah, there was a point in time where I strongly considered going into healthcare as well. But always in the back of my head, like, was art. It was always something I gravitated towards in school and like off hours. It was my place of escape and my place of Like it was my best friend. It's the love of my life. So after high school, I went to art school at Alberta College of Art and Design, and I discovered illustration and design there. And yeah, from there, I after graduating, I ended up in the video game industry where I worked there for almost 4 years as a concept artist. Kind of to tie back to what Christina was saying with like it's really tough at first to kind of be doing your passion, so you have to like do a secondary job to kind of fulfill um like pay the bills essentially. And so even though doing concept art was still in the like field of art, it wasn't necessarily kind of my dream of illustrating picture books. So honestly, it took probably around 6 or 7 years after I graduated until I was able to actually start illustrating a book. And it got to a point where I was still in the games industry after 6 years. And then I started getting picture book contracts. And I was like, I can't do both at the same time. I really burnt out. And I'm finding myself in a much healthier position right now where I'm illustrating picture books full time. And I've been really enjoying it a lot.
And it shows. I love the back of your studio there with
Thank you.
all the
Yes.
wonderful, colorful pages. I already have an eye on a couple of things I want.
I know, right?
I know the babies are here.
So tell me about children's literature. Like, what does it mean for you to maybe with Cristina, because you're the writer of the book and The Only Way to Make Bread. And what was it about writing for a younger audience that appealed to you? And then I'll jump to Sarah.
The concept of you've understood something if you could explain it simply, or if you could explain it to a child. Social justice. The world is a really scary place some days. And it's really hard sometimes to bring people to the table on these big, heavy conversations that get complicated and messy, and everyone's got some heart around it. And the amazing thing about boiling something down to, hey, you know what? We are all hungry. We're all human at the table. Come, tell me about your bread. Tell me about the smell of it, the taste of it, the sound of it. It's funny. You've got people there. And when you have adults reading to kids, yeah, the kids are learning, but so are the adults. You are stretching hearts. You are inviting people to see into the lives of others, to see themselves, to create space at the table for other people through something as simple as a kid's book. I mean, when you look at some of the most eloquent quotes talking about grief and transformation, you'll quote the Velveteen Rabbit. When you are looking for something that is hopeful, something that is simple, you're going to reference Seuss. You just are. You don't even recognize that you've done it. But I would challenge you, look up like a fantastic quotes and look for like simple quotes.
Right.
And they will almost always come from children's books and from children's literature, because you have to be able to distill a concept down into something so simple, and also strong and clean and pure, because it's kids.
Right. Yeah, and that's beautifully told. I couldn't agree more. And Sarah, what's it like to actually take the words, for example, that, someone like Cristina has written and now putting it into a more of a visual way of storytelling, because it is accompanying, the message that Cristina is trying to share with us.
Yeah. Like when I first read the manuscript, I fell in love. It was just like the message is just very wholesome and pure, exactly what Cristina was saying, like distilling kind of like the complexity of the world, but into this like book that's just like bread is life, bread is love, and everything surrounding it. And talking with our amazing editor, Samantha, we chatted about how we wanted the storytelling to kind of be non-linear and focus on this apartment complex where it's very mundane. And within each unit, there's like a different family of a different ethnicity and a different type of bread that they make. And just kind of showing like, even if each like kind of home is sort of similar, like what brings like life is the people themselves and like the space around them, and how the process of the bread is like unique to each family. And yeah, so I really loved the theme, and I wanted to carry that throughout the whole entire story. And at the end, it's like they all kind of like gather together and just have like the celebration of love and of bread and of life. And
Mhm.
yeah, I really fell in love with Christina's writing, and it was, yeah, it was an honor to just be able to like illustrate that and bring the visuals to that, and bring the layers in it. There's layers
Mhm.
in the writing and there's layers in the art, through like the texture, the characters themselves, and yeah, the whole world around it.
I
Yeah.
fell in love with Sarah's ramen. It was Sam had messaged me and she said like, "Hey, this is who we're looking at. What do you think?" And there was this bowl of ramen that, honest to God, it was so layered in warmth and love, and I mean, visually stunning, obviously, because it's Sarah. So it was remarkable, but it totally, I was really fortunate. I got to do an exchange to Japan when I was in high school. And I still remember my host partner had gone off with her class to another part of Japan. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go with them on this class trip. So it was just Okasa and I at home. And the one day she took me to this wharf. Like she took me straight down to where the fishermen were eating, because it was in Hakodate, Hokkaido, so southern
Mhm.
tip of the Northern Islands. And she took me, and we got this bowl of ramen that, honest to God, I think it was the size of my head, and I'm not even exaggerating. You know, like the ebi fry, the prawns were like legit this big. They were amazing. It was I still, it's been 25 years and I think about that soup on the regular. It was amazing. And that bowl of ramen, when I saw Sarah's picture, was like, this, here it is. Here is like the heartbeat that just kind of kept passing on and on and on. From that Japanese mother to this Colombian daughter to this Filipino sister, you know, like it
Mhm.
just kind of kept moving.
Yeah, I did see some of the, as I mentioned, I was looking at your website, Sarah, and I love the palette. It's very warm. It's very cozy feeling. It reminds me of the different breads I've also tried myself. Um, and was there, did you initially think of the palette yourself, or was there a discussion with the editor and Christina here in terms of, what that feel and the color would, palette would be?
I think with the process of this picture book, especially with the colors, I knew I wanted to do pencil crayon on like a textured paper, just because it like the look and the grittiness of it just reminded me of the texture of bread. So with that, I wanted to show the warmth of bread and like the goldenness
Mm,
of it. So with each piece here, I started each one with a golden ochre undertone. So I did all the drawings with gold first. So
mhm.
everything kind of had like this sort of golden aura around them. And
Right.
It
yeah,
really
it's
does.
kind of
Like you
the
can see it.
I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's I think in the beginning I put what it's made with, and it's like it's pencil crayons digitally edited but baked into golden brown. So just taking that golden brown essence and like
Mhm.
distilling it into the book, I that's where I went with the colors for that.
Yeah, it looks really nice. I can't wait to actually see a physical copy myself. In choosing the breads, Christina, there are so many from around the world, as we know, right? I see Sarah.
It's
Yes,
so hard.
there's so many delicious breads all over the world. and I just had a talk with a friend totally on the side, but it's like, just give me something, just give me any dough, and I'm happy. Because we were talking about how sometimes bread is really kind of a comfort food sometimes for some of us. So how did you decide in terms of, which sort of breads might make it into a storybook, and then sort of maybe what you're going to talk about at the workshop that you're going to do here at TIFA?
Yeah. So as far as the bread, they're actually basically chosen from my life. One of my very best friends is, I don't know, 5 generations Canadian, and she makes these dinner rolls that are when she bakes them, like the neighborhood is a better place. And although they don't last very long because she has teenagers also.
Right.
So, the second Carol buns are like baking. Those kids are like lining up. They're circling like sharks to the kitchen. My other best friend is Jewish. And so she has been the one for, 25 plus years who will braid the most beautiful challah. And it is just this thing of comfort where I'm at her house. If I'm at her house on a Friday, well, we can braid it together. And it's all of these breads literally are like arepas are my bread.
Right.
And it's my dad actually who really taught that. It's funny because my mom was obviously in my home, very traditional, it was the 80s, Latino home, and my mom was the cook in our home. But it was my dad who's actually become a lot of a cultural keeper with the foods. So, like the arepa, sancocho, other dishes. Although my mom, there are two things she makes, like Colombian hot chocolate. Sometimes people call it completo, which has melted cheese in it, and it's amazing. And masa mora, which is basically hominy corn. It's also, you'll find it in across cultures, and it's like a porridge, basically. But yeah, these are breads that all come from, like, my friend Fatou from Burkina Faso. She was telling me about her bread toll. My friend Anjana, like, friend, what do you eat? Like, what's your comfort? She's like, well, my death row meal would be this. Like, okay, well, we don't have to go there. But like, how about you just had a bad day? Like, what are you making? You know? And so that's where we found all of these.
Nice. Do you have a favorite one, Sarah? I mean, you were nodding a lot in terms of bread, so I see the love here. In kind of helping to create this book, is there anyone in particular that you love more, or from your culture that you also sort of kind of gravitate to?
Yeah, at first it was hard because I was like, I want to put every single bread in this. It was tough, but I was like, it was amazing to see Christina's references and inspiration for the all the breads. So it was amazing to get those photos and talk with our editor Sam about them as well, and also like have that open to I added pandesal in there because that's from the Philippines, and it's something like a fond memory that I have as a kid was my Tita Paz. She would make pandesal at family parties, and just like that feeling of and warmth of when it's out of the oven and they bring it out and just in seconds everything gets devoured. It's just like a really special moment. So I wanted to add that into the book, and in the one of the first spreads you kind of get an overview of the kitchen. It's kind of based on sort of our Filipino family gatherings, and like their shoes at the front entrance, like kids running around, and different generations of families. So that's where I drew inspiration from, was like, the pandesal of my family in the Philippines.
That's so lovely. I feel like I'm living through my childhood here too. I grew up in Toronto when I moved here when I was 12. And you're right. I have friends of different cultures, and I know what pandesal is, and I know what arepas are, and I what bannock is. And I feel like there's a thread there in terms of multi-generational homes, and sort of the idea that a lot happens in the kitchen, and it's through the food that a lot of even conflicts are sometimes addressed, right?
Yes.
Through meals.
Drama.
Well, and also it's like forgiveness, right? Because I mean, we have words that exist like companion, right? Companion, the person with whom you break bread. You know,
Mhm.
this ties back to, like, we're looking at centuries of humanity, where we have come together over food, where, you know, you might be in conflict with a parent, with a sibling, with a something, with someone in your home. Um, and when it comes down to it, love is expressed so often through food, where we are saying, I'm mad at you. I'm so
Yeah.
mad. And also, I love you, so eat your soup. You know, like, I'm making your favorite soup. Here it is. You know,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's almost sometimes easier, um, when you don't have an easy relationship with the family member, maybe. And that is the thing, is that we know that often within families who've immigrated, that there is often pre-migration trauma. There is often a lot of adversity that comes with immigrating most of the time.
Mhm.
And for me, it was so important to reflect the joy of what it is to be raised in a community where one mom was everybody's mom. Like, I still remember, um, you know, if you saw Mrs. Chung up in the window, you knew that if she said, Christina, come get this money, I need you to go get me the milk, you were going to go get the money, you were going to go get Mrs. Chung's milk. You absolutely were, because the next time if your mother saw Natalie going by, then she was going to be like, hey,
Mhm.
Natalie, go ask your mom if I can have some sugar, please. You know, we were raised in this way where everyone was busy, everyone was working, but there was always bread, and there was always somewhere a parent, a grandmother, an aunt. I still remember the fire alarm going off one day because my mom had come home at lunch, started making a pot of rice, because Colombian rice is the foundation for your meal, at least my parents, anyways. And my mom had forgotten, and then forgotten to and like rushed back to work. She thought she could try and squeeze the thing in, right?
Mhm.
And I remember sitting in the British landlord's, the apartment super, were they were British. Um, and I remember sitting in this really wildly different apartment from ours, eating a scone, which I'd never had in my life. I was like, what
Right.
is this strange little dry thing? And then, you know, she pulls out clotted cream and jam, and I don't know what it is, but I know that I feel really loved and really safe right now. And I'm so happy about this, you know,
Mhm.
with some tea. And it was funny because even as a child, I remember my mom would give us, you know, like, as you got older, it would be more coffee, less milk.
Yes.
But, you know, you have that little splash of coffee in there, right? Leche con café, and eventually it was café con leche. And, you know, being at this apartment and having this lovely British lady who, you know, you ever kind of saw once a month when your parents were knocking on the door, dropping off the check, whatever,
Right.
uh, serving you tea and scones. And it was so beautiful. And yeah, it was lovely.
Hmm. And ties to Sarah's story about your tita, right? How, there's just these core memories that sometimes are
Mhm.
so tied to food and smells, like, like the taste and smell of those moments. I'm so happy to see books like these being available to younger audiences. I'm buying these books now for myself because not only because of the art, but I think it's nice to be able to have references that tie us culturally, but also celebrate, like you said, the diversity in our cultures as well. Do you think that this is something that you might continue on, each of you, in terms of maybe working in literature for younger audiences and adults?
Sarah already does, man.
Yeah.
Sarah, how many books have you illustrated now? How many
Yeah.
picture books? What are you at?
Three
Prolific.
and two more coming. And then I want to
Right?
try
So
to write some of my own too. So, um,
I'm in. How can I
yeah.
help?
Yes, we'll speak after.
We
For
absolutely
sure.
will. When
And
we are in Toronto for this, we are
yes,
going to we're going to drill down into that, because I think you should absolutely write your own book. This would be amazing.
yes. And I would absolutely love to illustrate another of Christina's books
I know, right?
again. Yes.
There we go. That means we need another one.
And there will be
Yes.
another book. The only way to make bread. It was really an idea about connection, about the thing we all have in common, and so there are a few different things like that we have in common. So, um, I'm never sure exactly how much I'm allowed to say about some things, to be honest. So all I will say is that there will be more. I can 100% guarantee you there will be more.
That's great to hear. I'll be sure to link your individual sites. I have Sarah's site. Do you have any other socials that you want to plug, each of you? Um, what's the best way to find you or your work?
Mine's just my Instagram, despite the fact that my website does actually exist theoretically. I'm bad at it.
That's fair. I'll be
That's
sure to
okay.
tag you in the socials.
Yes. I'm just at S Gonzales Art, Instagram or in my website.
Excellent. I'm so looking forward to your workshop in Toronto, and thank you so much for speaking with me. It's been so lovely. I feel
Oh
like
my
I
gosh.
some bread and tea.
Yes. Thank you so much, Heidi. And I
Yeah.
always love hearing your stories, Christina. It like
Oh, I'm
warms my
hearing
heart.
yours. I didn't realize that you had like, all of your siblings. Like,
Yeah.
talk about black sheep, man.
Yeah. For real.
It's great because it's like, your workshop is going to be beautiful storytelling, I think. And I think for
Totally.
all ages.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to make little Play-Doh arepas with the kids, just for the
Yeah.
sake of
Uh,
food safety, so that they can get the sense of like
mhm.
the feel of what it is. Play-Doh has a really great similar texture to a good arepa, and you can kind of manipulate it. So they can get the shape of it correct, and then actually all of our participants are going to get to take home a little mini arepa kit to make arepas at home.
Oh, that's so great.
Yes. It's gonna be so
Yeah.
fun.
It's going to be super fun.
I hope we see you, Heidi, over
Yeah,
there
Yeah,
too.
please.
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm there wherever there's bread.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you again.
Thank you
Lovely.
so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.